The scene unfolds with the outer gods, the absolute entities that had created numerous universes since ancient times were known as supreme beings. The supreme beings would repeatedly create universes, while pursuing eternal life and living it. In that process, numerous substances, souls, and laws were birthed. In this endless cycle, the supreme beings that felt a persistent sense of boredom thought of a way to entertain themselves. This was to watch their creations go to war with each other. To the supreme beings, the destruction caused by their creations seemed interesting, although that means that numerous creations had to fight in endless wars, die, and be reborn repeatedly. That was a necessary event to appease the boredom of the supreme beings. While all that was taking place, something happened. A supreme being who was observing the endless wars was killed by his own creation. When the supreme beings from other dimensions found out about that, they all gathered in one spot to observe the world that had lost its master. The death of a fellow supreme being. The fact that he was killed by his own creation. The supreme beings did not care about that. They all had the same thought. The first to claim an ownerless power becomes its master. The scene begins with a high school where students met for farewell. Suho, the main character, shared his excitement about getting accepted into the Korea National University of Arts. Another student expressed disbelief at Suho's acceptance, questioning his refinement and suggesting he would have to repeat a year. Suho laughed off the skepticism, feeling relieved to have escaped what he considered a difficult situation. Another guy, Lee Wonchul, congratulated Suho on his achievement, expressing surprise at his hidden talent for drawing and questioning when he had developed this skill. Suho greeted Wonchul, mistaking him for Sungchul, but Wonchul aggressively clarified his identity as Lee Wonchul. Suho acknowledged Wonchul's disappointment in his failed plans to take over the high school. Suho reminded Wonchul that he also played a role in ensuring Wonchul's safe graduation. A girl expressed confusion over Wonchul's behavior towards Suho, who had faced hardships but remained resilient. Wonchul's aggression towards Suho escalated, but Suho diffused the situation by suggesting they focus on graduating peacefully. Wonchul attempted to start a small fight by trying to punch Suho, but Suho unexpectedly gained powers like a hunter and defended himself. Suho was surprised by his own abilities. Wonchul began bleeding from his nose and became even more aggressive, punching the cupboards in the classroom so hard that a hole was created. The entire classroom was left in shock. 2 years later, Suho contemplated his aspirations as a second-year university student. 3 years prior, the emergence of portals and dimensions had begun, prompting the Hunter Association to manage the ensuing chaos. As he listened to the announcement, he learned that all classes in the main building had been relocated to the annex, and they are telling people to stay away due to the ongoing efforts of hunters to subdue the monsters. The president of the Hunter Association inquired about the duration of the operation, to which a member responded that it had been just over 8 hours, estimating that the hunters would emerge soon given the D-rank classification of the gate. Another announcement warned of potential dangers for non-hunters, urging them to maintain their distance. Amidst the tension, some individuals speculated about the possibility of school destruction, while others reassured them that the hunters would manage the situation. Suho thought about the entire situation and another gate. 3 years ago, gates began to manifest across the globe, leading to significant transformations in society. These gates served as entrances to dungeons from which monsters would emerge after a designated period, posing a threat to humanity. In response to this peril, individuals also experienced transformations, developing special abilities that harnessed mana. This emergence of the awakened was a countermeasure to the chaos. Amidst the rapid changes, an awakened individual named Woo Jinchul established the Hunter Association, uniting the awakened and creating a profession known as hunters, which effectively curtailed the chaos sooner than anticipated. Consequently, society is now categorized into awakened and non-awakened individuals. Suho starts attending his class. Focused and sketching with deep thoughts in his mind, he reflects on the disparity between individuals who must struggle like ants to earn rewards and those who can effortlessly seize them. In this context, the ants quickly acknowledge their limitations. No matter the effort exerted by the non-awakened, they cannot bridge the gap to an E-rank awakened individual. The fate of the world hangs in the balance, as the inability of hunters to close the gates could lead to destruction. Essentially, the non-awakened depend on the awakened for survival, while the awakened can thrive independently. This dynamic fosters gratitude among the non-awakened, including Suho, who appreciates the hunters for enabling a peaceful existence. However, a sense of unease begins to creep in, prompting him to question whether he has grown too accustomed to his inability to attain his desires, such as the absence of his parents and his reliance on others for survival. He reminisces about a time when he felt empowered, now overshadowed by a profound sense of helplessness. His mother often remarked on his resemblance to his father, leading him to ponder how his father would navigate the current state of powerlessness he faces. All of a sudden, a loud noise interrupted Suho's deep thoughts, startling him as he noticed it was his teacher. The teacher complimented him, saying he was concentrating well today, and asked what he was enjoying drawing. Suho replied that he had just drawn based on his feelings. The teacher remarked on the creativity of his drawing, questioning if it was an ant, but then suggested it looked more like an ant-human. Suho wondered to himself why he had created such a strange image, reflecting on the mysterious sketch he had made during his contemplation. The scene of the Hunter Association begins near the hole, indicating the hunters are emerging from it. Everyone outside is waiting for their arrival, and they appear confident. A member of the association comments on their relaxed demeanor, suggesting they were successful in their raid. A member of Hunter Association, who had gone inside the hole for investigation, praises Hunter Kim for their great work, as they have completed the dungeon raid and encountered a new type of monster that spews blue flames and attacks with claws and fangs, and while investigation Hunter Kim got some scratches from that monsters which he ignored. Another member requests a report on the raid, and suddenly the scratch on Hunter Kim's body produces blue light, causing them to transform into a wild monster and start attacking everyone. The person who got harmed by Hunter Kim also became a monster. The members of the Hunter Association are shocked and panicked, as they realize that even a small scratch from the monster can turn a person into a wild monster. The chaos and commotion catch the attention of Suho's classmates, who are distracted from their classroom activities and witness the unfolding events with shock and confusion. Suho approached the window and was taken aback by the chaotic scene outside, where people were violently attacking one another. A classmate beside him remarked that the attackers had blue lights in their eyes, resembling monsters. Another classmate speculated whether a dungeon break had occurred. Outside, people were in a frenzy, urging each other to flee, while some insisted on waiting for hunters. A student called out to their instructor, pleading for action, but the instructor lamented their E-rank status. Suddenly, Suho heard a monstrous voice nearby, signaling an imminent attack on their classroom. As the creature lunged through the broken window, panic ensued among the students and instructor. The monsters wreaked havoc, their eerie blue lights instilling fear. Amidst the chaos, a voice shouted for everyone to escape. Suho began to run but noticed a girl trapped, pleading for help. Conflicted, he told her he would fetch hunters, realizing too late that it might seal her fate. As he ran, he berated himself for his helplessness, reflecting on what his father would do in such a situation. Just as the monster approached the terrified girl, Suho seized an oxygen cylinder and leaped toward the creature, determined to protect her. Inspired by the thought of his father, and at the end a spoiler alert appeared: you have met all of the requirements to complete the secret quest. Courage of the week. The appearance of a spoiler alert triggered a freeze in the system, prompting Suho to recall memories he had forgotten. These memories were reminiscent of a dream-like game where he felt a sudden surge of strength and encountered a green box displaying detailed information about attack type, rank of usage, level type. As he leveled up to face increasingly powerful monsters on each floor, he leveled up and fought and fought and fought. Suho relied on his fists rather than weapons, pushing himself to grow stronger with each battle. As the monsters grew more fierce, he had no other choice but to keep growing stronger. He was just fighting and using all his power to destroy all the monsters. Overcoming numerous challenges, he finally reached the final boss, who turned out to be his father, prompting Suho to question the connection between his father's strength and the game. The final boss, resembling his father, asked if Suho enjoyed the game, leading him to realize that his father's influence may have shaped his perception of strength and trustworthiness. As time resumed, Suho noticed the fire extinguisher, seized it, and sprinted toward the monster, shouting for his father and contemplating how his father would react in such a ludicrous situation. With all his might, he struck the creature with the fire extinguisher, inflicting significant damage. However, Suho was left bewildered, questioning his next move, as he recalled that attacks lacking mana were ineffective against monsters. He realized that rushing in without a strategy could lead to dire consequences, leaving him in a state of confusion and shock. The girl he intended to rescue inquired about the situation, prompting another pause in time as an alert box appeared in front of Suho, showing you have met all of the requirements to complete the secret quest Courage of the Week. And another alert box then appeared, asking you now qualify to become a player. Do you accept it? Confused, Suho feels like he's in a game he once dreamed of, and decides that in this hopeless situation, there's no reason not to accept. He accepts, and the classroom lights up with another alert box congratulating him on becoming a player. A new box appears showing the quest reward guide and informs Suho that the great spellcaster Kandiaru has given him a blessing, promising a strong body and a healthy life as a result of this blessing. A different alert box displays a quest reward guide with a permanent effect of longevity. This effect grants immunity to diseases, poison, and status effects, along with explosive regenerative abilities during sleep. Another alert box appears, indicating that the system will support player growth, emphasizing the importance of caution as there is only one life to live. A final alert box showcases the entire status window, revealing Sung Suho's name, level 1, job is none, fatigue at 0, and various attributes like strength, stamina, dexterity, intelligence, and sense, along with his skills, passive skills, and active skills. Suho recognizes the similarity to a game's status window and smiles, realizing the connection. An alert box is displayed, indicating the appearance of a quest. The quest guide instructs to eliminate the mist burn and gain experience. The monster begins to stir once more, and time resumes its flow. Suho urges the girl to flee quickly, to which she responds with fear. Labels appear above the monster, identifying it as an unawakened mist burn and a D-rank awakened mist burn. Suho assesses his adversaries, noting 2 unawakened monsters and 1 transformed hunter. As the monster approaches, Suho contemplates the possibility of his own awakening. He strikes the creature forcefully with a fire extinguisher, causing it to leak and inflict significant damage. Following this, Suho delivers another powerful punch, apologizing as the monster is propelled against the wall. Feeling a surge of strength, Suho receives a notification confirming the defeat of an unawakened mist burn. Suho was shocked as he hit the monster in one punch. An alert box appeared showing defeated an unawakened mist burn and leveled up. He also received a quest completion reward. Further asking to confirm the reward, Suho confidently confirms the reward. After leveling up and completing the quest tutorial, Suho expressed his realization of his newfound strength. Suho hit the monster very badly and realized that he had really awakened. He punched a D-ranked mist burned, but it seems not to work that much on the monster. Despite his initial success, Suho was surprised when the monster withstood his attack and scratched him, causing him to fear the possibility of becoming a monster himself. An alert box has been triggered. A detrimental status effect has been identified. However, thanks to the power of longevity, all status effects have been nullified. Suho's surprise turns into realization as he recalls seeing the longevity effect on his status window. Despite the monster's renewed attack, Suho remains unharmed as the monster falls on him. Suho, in a desperate attempt to save himself, reflects on his situation, realizing that if he is weaker than a D-rank awakened individual, he must be classified as E-rank. Despite having just awakened, he feels disheartened by the thought of being assigned such a low rank. As the monster approaches, he continues to search for a solution, recalling the mention of accepting rewards. A box is displayed in the quest reward guide indicating reward option 1 as an ability point increase of 5 and reward option 2 as a strength stat point increase of 3. Suho's strength rises from 11 to 14 after this encounter, showcasing his newfound power. Suho shouted and forcefully pushed the monster away. The monster was knocked back, and with renewed vigor, taking advantage of his increased strength, Suho swiftly approaches the monster and delivers a powerful punch. Suho expressed his frustration at not being able to take down the obstacle despite his increased strength. He decided to allocate all the points he received into further enhancing his strength, going from 14 to 19. Suho's strength increased as he delivered a powerful punch to the monster, causing it to fall back and hit the classroom wall with great force. It is unheard of for an awakened individual to level up, as one's rank is determined at the moment of awakening and cannot be surpassed. Once the rank is decided, the moment for awaken and no awakener can become stronger than their rank. The entity responsible for ranking remains unknown, especially in the case of unawakened individuals. If only there was a way to break free from the confines of this system. Suho unleashed a powerful punch at the monster as the classroom wall shattered. His hands were now heavily bleeding. An alert box appears up. You have successfully vanquished the D-rank awakened mist burn. You have gained a level. You have gained a level. Suho exclaimed in amazement as he declared victory while sitting on the floor, witnessing the blood from his hand miraculously stop and his injuries heal instantly. With newfound determination, Suho joyfully realized his own awakening and declared confidently that he could now save others and bring an end to the ongoing disaster. As he heard commotion outside, a monster with a sword threatened the people, prompting Suho to take action and assess the situation from the window. Just then, the monster labeled with C-rank Mist Burn emerged, causing chaos and destruction as it attacked on the window where Suho was standing. Window and the breaks of buildings fall. The scene opens with an urgent announcement in the city regarding a dungeon breach at the Korean Art University, urging all nearby residents to evacuate immediately as monsters create chaos and cause destruction. In response to the crisis, the president of the Hunter Association expresses frustration, lamenting the loss of life while questioning the whereabouts of the hunters dispatched to address the situation. A representative from the Hunter Association mentioned that they are experiencing difficulty in finding B-rank and higher hunters. The president of the Hunter Association expressed surprise that the dungeon is a D rank. The member of the Hunter Association indicated that the association is considering the possibility of infected hunters. The president of the Hunter Association expressed disbelief that a C-rank hunter could have been infected, while showing an identity named Kim Jong-soo with a C rank. The ongoing sequence depicts the sudden sword attack on Suho by the monster, causing him to fall down and his clothes are torn. Suho expresses his surprise at the monster's sudden appearance, questioning if it had jumped up from the floor below. The monster, labeled as a C-rank Awaken Mist Burn. Suho confidently examined the label on the monster, a C-rank Awaken Mist Burn. He observed that this Awakened Mist Burn seemed different from others, especially since he was armed. Despite just leveling up, he pondered whether it was worth engaging in a battle with this particular monster. The monster suddenly launched an attack on Suho with its sword, prompting Suho to display his courage in self-defense. Suho ended up falling to the ground, feeling a bit disoriented as he observed the immense power of the monster before him. The monster's eyes and mouth emitted blue flames, causing Suho to react in shock. The monster made another attempt to strike Suho with its sword, but Suho managed to defend himself once more. Suho threw a fire extinguisher towards the monster, which the monster chopped into half parts. Its contents filled the entire room with thick fog. Suho quickly made his escape outside, realizing the daunting challenge of defeating such a forbidding opponent. As he ran, he pondered on the significance of the divided and ranked awakenings, wondering when the hunters would arrive to assist him in this dangerous situation. Suho hoped to hold out until their arrival. The monster trailed behind Suho, causing him to become frightened. Meanwhile, the monster spotted a group of girls on the school terrace. One of the girls suggests waiting there until the hunters arrive, while another girl questions if they are on their way. The creature unsheathed its blade and launched an assault on the terrace where the young women awaited rescue from the hunters. Suho stopped and saw that the monster was no longer chasing him, and he also saw that monster had jumped out of the window. Suho, witnessing this, was filled with dread as the walls of the terrace crumbled under the monster's attack. Suho's fear turned to anger as he exclaimed that there was no time to wait for the hunters and he needed to confront the creature himself. With determination, Suho moved forward and delivered a powerful kick to the monster's back, provoking a strong counterattack with its sword. Despite realizing the danger posed by the monster's sword weapon, Suho knew he couldn't allow it to roam freely and endanger others. Bracing himself, Suho prepared to face the creature head-on in order to protect those in danger. Suho unleashed a relentless barrage of punches against the monster, exerting all his strength and power with both hands. In response, the monster retaliated with its sword, inflicting a severe injury on Suho. He was subsequently thrown against the wall with great force. Realizing his dire situation, Suho noted that his HP had dwindled to 1 out of 140, but he refused to give up, determined to disobey the odds and emerge victorious. Suddenly, the monster began to laugh evilly. Monster realized that he had already been able to defeat Suho, and this realization gave him more evil confidence, making him an even more dangerous opponent. As the dimensions of the walls began to crack, Suho refused to surrender and stood up once more. The walls started to open up, and the monster was now dangerously close to attacking Suho with all its might. The system displayed Suho's exhaustion level at 99, and as he started to lose consciousness, he realized he could no longer defend himself or keep fighting the monster. Suho contemplated begging for mercy as the monster closed in on him, ready to strike him down on the roof of the house. The dimension shifted, revealing a mysterious creature emerging from the portal. In an instant, an unknown monster destroyed the roof, leaving Suho bewildered by the sight before him. He was certain that the creature had intervened just in time to save his life, but as they both plummeted from the roof, Suho realized he was powerless to prevent the fall. The impact upon hitting the ground was immense, causing cracks and waste to scatter around them. Suho, on the brink of unconsciousness, felt his life slipping away, thinking back to the times he had sketched ants, the very creature that now seemed to be his savior in his final moments. The ant verified that he had been the one to rescue him. He expressed regret for being late, but vowed to prevent the monster from harming him. As he gazed at the creature that had injured Suho and nearly killed him, he prepared to confront it, only to realize it was no match for him. Fueled by anger at the creature for harming Suho, he swiftly defeated it with a deadly blow, causing it to shatter into small pieces. The creatures roamed the facility in search of fresh victims to consume and corrupt with blue flames, ensuring the cycle of creating more monsters. One of them spotted a man among a crowd, lost in his thoughts and unaware of the close to danger. The man was horrified when he saw the monster, his face drained of color and terror. He was unable to comprehend the source of the monstrous panic that overtook him, causing him to desperately search for a way to save himself. However, fear rendered him immobile, leading him to throw the mop aside and cry out for assistance. Clutching his head in his hands, he bowed down in terror, unaware that the attacking monster had already been vanquished at that very moment. The monsters were wiped out in seconds, causing a loud echo across the city as BR released a powerful wave of magical energy. The nearby soldiers were confused by the sudden event, sensing something unusual and intense nearby. Meanwhile, the creature quickly returned to its master Suho and mentioned that they hadn't met in a long time. The scene opens with Suho, a young boy sketching shadow warriors in his room. As he glanced up, he saw the imposing figure of Beru holding the drawing Suho had created. Suho was taken aback to see that his young master had drawn him, and he couldn't help but shed tears at the touching gesture of this beautiful creation. Suho slowly regained consciousness and blinked his eyes, and after opening his eyes he was confused about his surroundings. However, upon fully waking up, he realized he was in bed, wrapped in a blanket. The first word that escaped his lips was Aunt puzzling the doctor beside him. Moments later he began calling out for his uncle, speaking in a way that was inexplicable to those around him. Despite the confusion, his uncle reassured him, expressing concern about his well-being and the harshness of the world. He even offered to hire bodyguards for Suho's protection. Suho, however, managed to convey that he was all right, declining the need for extra security. By the time he opened eyes, 2 days had already passed since he was fainted by the monster. Subsequently, he began to tune in to the television, where the government was addressing the incident at the University of Arts, which had caused significant injuries and sparked widespread debate. The discovery of the mist burn monster, which transforms hunters into monsters and attacks them, became a central point of discussion. Despite the incident taking place in the heart of the city, the Hunter Association was slow to respond. Upon the hunters' arrival at the scene, they were met with chaos and destruction, but all the monsters had been mysteriously eliminated. Witnesses claimed that the people who had been transformed into monsters had seemingly appeared out of nowhere. As Sung Suho observed everything happening around him, he struggled to grasp that it wasn't a dream but reality. He understood that the awakened grow stronger by leveling up, and he was currently at level 5. He accepted that he had achieved a small rank, especially after surviving a battle with a hunter. Confused by how he managed to stay alive, he suddenly heard a voice explaining that Beru had eliminated those parasites causing trouble. When he glanced down at the ground, he noticed a massive shadow staring back at him with its large eyes. Once Beru returned to his shadow form, he expressed how nice it was to reunite after so many years, acknowledging Suho's growth into a remarkable young lord. Overwhelmed with emotions, Suho gradually started to piece together fragmented memories, realizing that the shadow was connected to his childhood. He recognized it as the ants, creatures he had cherished deeply during his early years. The reason for his sudden recollection puzzled him, but Beru claimed that the young ruler defied the boundaries of measurement to reach him. Suho still struggled to comprehend why he had grown up among those dark creatures, but now he found himself consumed with endless inquiries. Yet, what truly mattered at the moment were his memories, as he now stood taller. However, Beru explained that cross dimensions demanded a significant amount of mana, and when he emerged, he appeared forbidding. Despite this, the card system indicated his status as that of a mere soldier, causing Beru to break out in anger at the demotion. He could not accept being reduced to a common soldier. Suho sprang to his feet, eager to express that he was feeling much better, attributing his recovery to his own efforts. But Beru declares that regardless of perspective, Suho was indeed a remarkable healer. Beru reminded him that his original mission had been to break the Shadow Seal, a task he had seemingly accomplished on his own, acknowledging Suho as the young ruler. However, Suho found himself puzzled about the connection between the seal and their current situation. Beru took a moment to clarify, explaining that everything Suho had experienced was a reflection of his true life, and he had grown significantly stronger since their last encounter. He revealed that the forbidding Shadow Lord, Jinwoo, had sealed Suho's powers and memories to ensure he could lead a normal life, a revelation that left Suho struggling with the implications of his past and newfound strength. Suho was in disbelief as he listened to Beru's explanation about his father being in space, defending their world against powerful beings. Beru clarified that his father had not left home, but rather went into space to fight the shadow attacker and monsters threatening their world. Although Suho didn't fully comprehend what space was, he was amazed by the bravery and sacrifice his father was making to protect their world from the powerful threats hidden in the cosmos. Itarim is intent on conquering his world by dispatching his apostles to launch attacks, while his father and Beru have engaged in battle against him. To reach this point, he has vanquished numerous enemies, and the opening of the gates on Earth is a direct consequence of the ongoing conflict. Suho inquired about the significance of his mother being out there as she vanished the day he was with his father, leading him to believe they were together somewhere. Upon hearing this, Beru became furious, unable to comprehend how Mrs. Hain could have disappeared, suspecting it to be the work of the apostles without a doubt. Suho listened attentively and inquired if the blame was being placed on the Itarim for preventing his parents from returning, but Beru soon understood that the young Lord Suho was eager to reunite with them. Suho responded approvingly, stating that the only solution was to become stronger in order to save his mother and reunite with his father. However, Beru mentioned that due to the Dark Lord's war, his father couldn't come back to Earth, so it was imperative for the young lord to grow stronger to locate and rescue Hain and himself. They will now utilize this key to elevate his level, and at that instant, a notification window emerges, indicating a new quest titled Quest Shadow Test as the son of a great figure. All his inherent abilities are currently sealed. To manage this immense power, he must demonstrate his worthiness by entering the Dark Dungeon and showcasing his skills. This key serves as the gateway to the Dark Dungeon, enabling his journey into its depths. Beru quickly informed the young master Suho that he needed to place the key into his shadow, which prompted the shadow gates to materialize before him. Within these gates, a portal awaited him, one that he needed to traverse without delay. Beru urged him to enter and reclaim the powers that rightfully belonged to him. However, Suho struggled to comprehend the reality of a cosmic battle involving gods and a Lord of Shadows, feeling that it all seemed doubtful. His primary focus shifted to collect strength in order to confront his parents, realizing that he could only do so effectively once he had grown stronger. Determined to improve himself, he resolved to level up relentlessly to attain the power needed for the challenge ahead. Meanwhile, a sense of excitement welled up behind him, reminiscent of the moment when his Shadow Lord instructed him to descend and shatter Suho's seal. Beru mentioned that he was discussing the seal of the Shadow Lord, to which Jinwoo responded that the Itarim could also invade Earth, urging Beru to restore his son's memory to the seal and allow him to safeguard the land. Otherwise, he would need to act based on the circumstances on Earth. Beru ultimately understood that if this responsibility was given to him, he would remain by the young lord's side to assist him in leveling up. At that moment, Suho began to step through the portal, gradually emerging on the other side, while Beru explained that this was the land of the dead, a place where no living being would dare enter without the master's consent, describing it as a dark dungeon filled with various creatures. Suho quickly recognized that it resembled a dungeon of shadows, appearing more like a ruined city than a traditional dungeon. However, he was struck by a deep discomfort, coupled with a sense of familiarity, as if he had visited this place in the past. At that instant, his train of thought was suddenly interrupted by the notification system, displaying a status window that conveyed a message about the leadership of the survival task in the Dungeon of Shadows. It stated that a weakling would never be recognized as a master in those lands, and he must endure the allotted time to prove his competence. Suho acknowledged the notice, realizing he had been given 4 hours. As the trial commenced, a creature materialized behind him and immediately launched an attack. Suho felt a sudden presence and swiftly turned around, delivering a powerful kick to the goblin, sending it flying to the side. He quickly understood the need to stay careful as the goblin had appeared out of nowhere. Upon closer inspection, he recognized it as a scout goblin. Beru warned him that where there was a scout, there were more goblins nearby, urging Suho to take care of the scout before it could alert its companions. Suho charged into battle, but Beru cautioned his young master Suho about the presence of goblins and advised him not to be reckless. Beru pointed out that the goblin was weaker and that he didn't even have a name or color. He swiftly took the goblin's stone axe from his inventory and swiftly defeated the enemy with a single blow, as the notification system indicated that he had vanquished the goblin scout in a matter of seconds. Suho promptly informed Beru that individuals who surpassed his strength bore names of different colors. Just then, Suho and Beru were startled by an unusual noise. When they turned around to see, they spotted a goblin sitting on the roof, waving to his companions. This angered Suho, who recognized that another scout was nearby. Moments later, additional goblins with yellow names appeared, followed by their captains joining the fray. Upon witnessing all that, Suho turned to Beru and inquired if he could lend a hand. Beru explained he was prepared to join the fight, yet the distance from the Overlord hindered him from restoring his magical abilities, compelling him to conserve his energy. Additionally, participating in battle would significantly diminish the experience points he'd earn. Suho quickly grasped the situation, understanding that Beru would not be able to help him. In that instant, he activated a skill and resolved to tackle the challenge on his own. The goblin axe lifted into the air and headed straight for Suho, who instinctively used his activated skill to control it. With a newfound mastery, he directed the axe to take out the goblins surrounding him, each swing a evidence to his strength. Just as he focused on his task, an arrow flew dangerously close, but he reacted quickly and snatched it from the mid-air. Looking up, he saw a goblin archer on the roof preparing to shoot another arrow. In that split second, the goblin archer was taken out. Observing the chaos of battle, Beru recognized his adaptability, akin to the legendary heroes from old tales, linked to the beloved story of the Little Lord. He possessed immense power, typically associated with lords, yet this strength threatened the peace of the world. However, with the renewal of the apostles invading their territory, the village of the Little Lord was finally beginning to thrive. In that moment, he came to the realization that the ruler's might was limited to a mere 10 kilograms, yet before he could fully comprehend this limitation, a new goblin approached from behind, having an evil smile on his face as the goblin stabbed the blade at him. The blade found its mark, through Suho's chest, and the goblin reveled in the satisfaction of inflicting pain upon him. However, the tide turned swiftly as a retaliatory strike, swiftly ending the goblin's life in a few seconds. Beru, witnessing the chaos, inquired about Suho's well-being, but their conversation was abruptly overshadowed by the emergence of a formidable new rival on the battlefield, radiating a huge red energy, the strongest goblin centurion. Unaware of this new threat, Suho steadied himself, drawing his weapon with deliberate slowness, preparing to confront the relentless attack of goblins encircling him, his resolve unwavering as he braced for the impending clash. With a confident look, he assumed a fighting position and engaged in a fierce battle, slashing with his blade. Taking out multiple goblins swiftly, he surprised everyone by hurling the dagger straight at the goblin centurion, hitting the target with remarkable speed. Suho felt energized and ready to give his best in the ongoing battle, fighting with all his strength and power. Suho's HP gradually decreased from 118 190ths to 84 190ths, and then to 53 190ths. The battle was far from over as he fought with unwavering determination, knowing that this was his best opportunity to advance against formidable foes. After enduring for 4 hours, a notification appeared, indicating that he had acquired the resilient skill and his level had increased. He completed the level. With the newfound strength, he swiftly defeated the goblins blocking his path, but the system showed a warning to him that time was running out and he had to complete the mission. Encouraged by Beru's words of praise, Suho pressed on and became confident that he would succeed. Upon completing the challenge, he was rewarded with a runestone shadow extraction that will grant him the shadow extraction skill. Suho, doubtful, asked about the use of a runestone. Beru felt immense joy as the young lord sang Suho as he obtained the shadow's extraction. During the battle, Suho realized he had acquired the skill of resilience, and following his awakening, he gained access to a leveling system. The notification system showed that he had acquired indomitable endurance and his physical defense was increased by 20%. Suho felt overpowered at that moment and all his injuries healed as he passed the level. Beru explained that this new system is a refined version of what the Lord had utilized previously, serving as a foundation for his consistent development and showcasing the significant power he had attained since his awakening. He believed he was still in a dream, but he soon discovered he was the most powerful Shadow Lord ever. With the runestone in his possession, he could shatter the run and absorb its essence. Upon breaking the runestone, a notification revealed that he had acquired the shadow extraction skill, enabling him to forge shadow soldiers. The rate of failure for extraction depends on the target's experience points and the duration of time since death. After going through notification, he doubtfully asked if he can create shadow soldiers. Beru explains that this is a skill that allows him to create soldiers from corpses like how Beru was created. Shadow extraction is the essence of the authority that made the current Shadow Monarch granting to Jinwoo. Suho described the situation as akin to a necromancer's abilities. However, in order to control corpses, Suho needs to hunt first, which means he can control those who are weaker than him. He noted that the summoning type skill is ranked low in the hunter's industry. When he attempted to extract a shadow, the notification system prompted him to establish a specific command for this skill. Realizing the necessity of a unique command for the extraction, he pondered briefly as Beru suggested that the command needs to be intuitive. Ultimately, he opted to use a saying, and upon issuing the command, the shadow began to merge and rise. Suho and Beru saw a small green hand show up from the arrival. As long as the preparations were finished, the notification system appeared for the primary level shadow goblins. The shadow goblins began showing up. He couldn't believe his own eyes that this was the extraction, which wasn't as terrible an ability as expected. Beru shared that the soldiers who had undergone shadow extraction initially appeared weaker and smaller than they had been in life, and the notification system indicated they would vanish after a mere 24 hours. To his surprise, Beru discovered he lacked the shadow power effect, intelligence, and level, which he recognized would be invaluable skills in the future. Suho, understanding the gravity of the situation, encouraged him not to dwell on it, but soon Suho's own discomfort surfaced as he realized he hadn't eaten in a day, his stomach growling in protest. He inquired about a way to escape their current place, and Beru informed him that with the key to the shadow dungeon, they could leave at any moment. Thus they resolved to venture out and find something to eat. Soon after, Suho found himself in the hospital tent, savoring a surprisingly delicious meal, completely unaware of the delicious delights that hospital food could offer. Observing him, Beru remarked that his little overlord would soon guide him on their next steps, which involved 3 crucial tasks. The first task was to safeguard Earth from heavenly demons, prompting Suho to propose that they venture into the dungeon to capture these demonic beings. Beru also verified that their level would go up as they hunt creatures, and the stronger they become, the safer Earth will be. Finding his missing mom is a third task, and Suho asked if there's a way to locate her. Beru suggested that if they keep catching creatures, they might find a clue and eventually need to go to the dungeon. The final crucial task is for Beru to regain his strength, as he wants to show his enemy his full power, not just regular soldiers, which prompted Suho to inquire about what he needs to do to regain his strength. Beru mentioned that he was able to absorb certain knowledge and magical items, although it was not the most efficient method, resulting in him becoming a shadow soldier. However, since he lacked magical power, he had no other option but to consume something magical. Suho made the decision to proceed to the dungeon regardless, and they are now making preparations. The Hunter Association will assess their magical abilities before entering the dungeon, as they are both individuals striving to enhance their magical abilities. He now needs to find out what grade he will receive, hoping for an S rank. However, the following day at the Hunter Association, a girl informed him that his magical ability level had been assessed and it is 46. He was now the weakest hunter, earning only an E rank. After leaving the association, he realized he needed to devise a plan to enter the dungeon. Beru mentioned that a hunter's level is based on their magical power, and the young lord's focus on boosting his physical stats would likely leave him at a disadvantage compared to his magical skills. Suho expressed his unwillingness to seek comfort, finding it more frustrating to rely on it. The Shadow Powers are currently assessing his ability to defend the land at such an early stage, indicating the need for him to increase his level. He learned that hunters of his rank cannot easily join a team, posing a challenge for him to enter the dungeon. However, he plans to explore a different approach by observing the capture team's battles in the dungeon, followed by the collection team retrieving creature bodies, and finally the extraction team performing extractions, providing him with a potential way to access the dungeon. Team hunters of E rank are permitted to enter the dungeon slightly later, coinciding with the moment when the dungeon workers begin transporting magic crystals. Suho, positioned near the magic crystals, found himself scratching his head in confusion, realizing the difficulty of the task at hand. He turned to express his gratitude to a fellow hunter beside him, acknowledging that he was fortunate to know him, as he was the only person he was familiar with in this context. This individual serves as a teacher's aide in the art department of a Korean university and is also a self-awakened E rank, making his presence in the dungeon particularly advantageous. The individual unexpectedly inquired about Suho, expressing regret for the difficulties he had caused at the university, where he felt isolated as the only awakened person and subsequently fled in fear. Suho reflected on this incident when he learned of his own awakened status, responding that he held an E rank. Now, he is offering an apology for his inaction at that time, but Suho encourages him to lift his head, noting that he too is an E rank awakened individual. He further explained that the association advises E rank hunters to retreat swiftly when faced with demonic entities, leaving the other man astonished. Suho, who is classified as an E rank, was confronted by Suho, who claimed their magical ability scores were equal. However, Suho found it hard to believe this assertion, as he had witnessed Suho battling a demonic creature on the roof while fleeing. Now, he questioned the truth of his observations and whether his own rank had improved following the creature's attack, which would indeed make Suho impressive. At that moment, Beru appeared beside him, commenting on the little lord's coolness. Startled by Beru's voice, the man turned to see the shadow soldier and instinctively sidestepped, shouting that a demonic creature was present. Suho was puzzled about why he emerged from the shadows, but the shadow soldier explained that the little lord was currently as weak as an ant larva. It would be safer for him to stay close and be protected. The guy began to stand and asked if he had awakened as a summoned hunter. Suho confirmed that it seemed so, noting that many hunters lacked skills, but he was fortunate. He playfully teased the guy about his skill, which was why he was fleeing from monsters so quickly. However, as soon as he said this, the guy sat down and became anxious. Suho clarified that his previous statement was meant as a joke before turning around to inform Suho that he had successfully defeated him. Suho then peered into the cave, noting that it was his first time exploring a dungeon other than the Shadow Dungeon. He found himself confronted by a task force targeting demonic creatures, with the Rapture team observing what seemed to be an empty dungeon. Despite encountering only demonic wolves so far, they were keen on collecting wolf pelt due to its high value. Occasionally, there are clusters of magical stones, leaving no choice but to continue searching. It's important not to get frustrated, just proceed through the dungeon until the end. Suddenly, a man appeared, informing the captain that something was present. Upon entering, they discovered a vast, brightly lit room. They were puzzled by the ruins and considered calling for backup. Although they didn't see any demonic creatures, they were confused about the presence of such a structure without any monsters. They resolved to investigate further and, at that instant, noticed an unusual weapon before them, leaving everyone puzzled about its nature. Instead of the anticipated treasure, the group was confronted with this unexpected object, which they had not considered could be a weapon embedded in the ground. Intrigued, they decided to examine it more closely. However, one member cautioned that testing it was necessary to ascertain its true purpose, noting its impressive appearance. Another warned of potential traps associated with such a find, prompting the captain to cautiously approach the object. He claimed to have taken it, refusing to leave as his fingers brushed against the sword, which erupted in a brilliant glow. The captain asserted that despite his rank, he could conquer whatever lay ahead. Suddenly, a blinding flash illuminated the dungeon, leaving the captain bewildered as he glimpsed an entirely different realm unfolding before him. The man beside him reassured the captain that there didn't appear to be a trap, but warned him to be cautious with the mysterious sword. However, as the captain swung the sword, he unexpectedly struck down his companion. The bewildered onlooker watched in horror as the captain transformed into a strange being, proclaiming that anyone who wielded the sword would become the ruler of the Fang and must eliminate all who offend upon the Fang Lord's domain. The captain began to defeat each hunter one by one as the scene unfolded, while in another part of the dungeon, the workers remained unaware that they were trapped. Suho demonstrated his ability to summon goblins to his comrade, who was surprised because he had heard that such abilities only summoned one or two creatures, yet Suho had summoned 3, indicating abnormal power. Despite this, the instructor couldn't comprehend why Suho was ranked so low. Suho's realization of the value of shadow extraction comes as a game-changer for him. With the limitation of only being able to summon 3 shadows, finding goblin bodies in the dungeon to use as free labor becomes a convenient solution. As a low-ranked hunter, he is unable to enter the dungeon alone, and the ever-changing ranking system poses a potential reassessment of his rank as he levels up. Despite these challenges, Suho is determined to make the most of the situation, reminding the taker that they can complete their 3rd mission in the dungeon, as it has the ability to regenerate when it consumes something mana. This newfound understanding of the potential of shadow extraction and the opportunities within the dungeon opens up a world of possibilities for Suho and the taker. Beru was asked by the instructor if he could recover by consuming something with mana, to which the instructor suggested scavenging mana from the little crumbs on the ground since Beru was not helpful in mining. Beru then inquired Suho about the appearance of the monarch, suspecting it might be related to his father, but Suho clarified that his father was not the only monarch, and if it was their monarch, Beru's power would be restored instantly. Suddenly, a loud noise interrupted their conversation, prompting Suho to investigate. As they turned towards the source of the noise, they discovered that a crowd of monsters was emerging from a cave right in front of them, causing panic among everyone present who shouted for them to run away. They began to question the direction in which their capture team was heading, but upon closer inspection, they noticed a strange creature emerging from the cave. As the diggers approached, they realized it was not human but rather a demonic entity, leaving them puzzled about its origin, especially since the hunters had just entered the cave. In a moment of fear, they turned to run towards the exit, yet one worker, in a state of panic, frantically waved his pickaxe at the creature. Despite his terror, he continued to signal, but the demonic being advanced and seized the pickaxe with its enormous mouth. The miner, staring at the shattered pickaxe, was bewildered by how swiftly the creature had destroyed it. In that instant, he realized his danger and, in a moment of desperation, called out for assistance from the other hunters. Just as the monster lunged at him, he leaped back, and at that critical moment, Suho appeared from nowhere, striking the demon dog fiercely on the head. As he did so, he urged his partner to run, promising to hold the creature off. His comrade, filled with gratitude, spirited away, thankful for the sacrifice. Suho began to observe the demonic dogs and noticed that their names were highlighted in orange, indicating that he was not on the same level with the mist burners at the university in Korea. However, his partner recognized that he could manage the situation effectively on his own, having significantly improved his strength. Suddenly, a wave of anger surged through him, prompting him to command his comrade to run away, asserting that he was not obligated to assist every time. In response, his comrade, filled with desperation, expressed that he was alone and would do his utmost to provide help. Suho, meanwhile, turned to his companion and requested that he intervene if he found himself in danger, while still deciding to leave 3 goblins for his protection as a precaution. He then accessed his inventory to choose the weapons he intended to wield against the demonic dogs, recalling that these were goblin weapons acquired in the Shadow Dungeon, which would certainly serve him better than a pickaxe. His comrade was puzzled, questioning whether he could truly summon weapons and the source of such remarkable abilities. Without hesitation, Suho charged towards the demonic dog with all his strength. Moments later, the notification system indicated that he had vanquished the steel-fanged Lycan. His comrades, left behind, watched in awe and celebrated the prowess of their young lord. Meanwhile, Suho extended his hand, commanding the demonic dog to allow his shadow to rise. The trio of goblins and their companion watched in terror as he successfully called forth the demonic dogs, which promptly turned on another demonic being, aiding Suho. Beru, observing his young master, felt pleased to see him adapting to using shadow power in battle. However, Suho soon realized that retrieving and summoning shadows did not deplete his mana, allowing him to potentially control an entire region by summoning more creatures as his magical power grew and he defeated the demonic dog. He promptly chose to call forth the goblin, while Suho's partner observed in shock as he summoned yet another demonic entity. At that moment, the notification system indicated that he had successfully defeated the steel-fanged Lycan and had achieved a new level. Following this, Suho proceeded to summon another wolf, specifically the last one he had vanquished. His companion then inquired about the situation, expressing confusion over how Suho could resurrect demonic beings, especially since this was clearly beyond an E-rank capability. Suho experienced a moment of hesitation as he recognized that he had lost his temper and needed to devise a strategy to remove himself from the situation. He remarked that the circumstances were essentially rank E, but his comrade failed to comprehend his meaning. Suho had deliberately registered under a false rank. Suddenly, he turned towards the cave from which the demonic creatures emerged, realizing that he still had an outstanding task and one remaining enemy. However, he was unable to identify this enemy, having already eliminated all the raccoons in the vicinity. He began to see a strange shape of a man and could not understand if it was his last enemy, but it looked like it was a person from the captured team. Suddenly, Suho's comrade began to approach that hunter and asked if he really survived after all they were attacked by demonic creatures and almost killed. At this moment, the expression on the hunter's face changed and the guys realized, and as soon as Suho pulled his comrade aside, simultaneously, a sword flew in front of his face, shattering his glasses upon impact as Suho swiftly moved his comrade out of harm's way in fear. Without hesitation, Suho commanded his goblins to attack the hunter, prompting them to converge from all directions and launch an assault to eliminate the threat. Meanwhile, Suho continued to guide his comrade to safety, remarking that luck was not on their side this time. He found himself trapped by an insane demonic being once more, his name now glowing red to signify a formidable adversary. The deeper the shade of red, the greater the threat posed by the creature. Having underestimated the strength of red-level creatures at the university in Korea, the logical course of action would be to flee with his companion from the vicinity of the hunter as swiftly as possible. Suho asked Beru about the meaning of his statement regarding the sense of the monarch's energy. Beru explained that the hunter carries the energy but is nowhere near the power of the monarch. Suho responded that he understands and needs to come up with a plan, but Beru couldn't comprehend if he really wanted to fight. Suho replied that the system indicated it was a safety mechanism to ensure his growth, so he had a chance to win. He also needed to get stronger to meet his parents, and to do so he must defeat the enemy and raise his level after scattering all the weapons he had in his inventory. Beru looked at Suho and was deeply moved by his words and began to express that he repeatedly encounters challenges beyond his capacity to manage, yet he never shies away from conflict. This seemingly frail demeanor explodes the essence of a true lord. As the creature came nearer to Suho, Beru remarked that the entity possessing the creature was similar to a sword. If Suho could seize the sword from its wielder, the bearer would contribute unmovable. At that moment, the creature gradually began towards Suho, but simultaneously, the shadow wolves began to encircle him and launch attacks from every direction. When one of the wolves managed to seize the creature's sword, Suho understood that the creature had indeed returned, having employed magic to enhance the shadow soldiers, who were essentially immortal. Suho recognized that as long as magic was present, these soldiers could regenerate indefinitely and led him to realize that the strength of the shadow soldiers was crucial for gaining an advantage over any adversary. At that moment, Suho realized that the creature had effortlessly destroyed his shadow wolf with a single swing of its sword. Beru remarked that the hunter was able to pull apart the shadow so easily due to Suho's still weak magic. Suddenly, the creature addressed Suho, questioning how a seemingly insignificant being like him could possess the power of the Shadow Monarch. Suho was taken aback by the creature's ability to speak, but Beru interrupted, angrily scolding the creature for daring to refer to a lord of the Shadow Monarch as a lowly creature. The creature was angered by Beru's words and quickly expressed that he hadn't anticipated encountering the Shadow Lord Monarch again. Without hesitation, he began to shout that Suho was the monarch's adversary. In response, Suho swiftly raised his weapon, declaring his intent to measure his strength and immediately release a burst of attacks and destroy the goblins in his path. Aiming directly at the creature, he found that it effortlessly countered all of his assaults, leading Suho to realize, as anticipated with such a feared opponent, the creature was able to deflect his attacks after scattering his weapons across the ground. Determined to change his strategy, Suho quickly extended his arm, opting to focus on total volume rather than clarity. Meanwhile, Beru, positioned behind him, understood that this was the ruler's innate power that had been harnessed since his early years, as Suho continued to attack while the red creature consistently hindered his efforts with ease. The creature erupted in a shout, questioning whether one would truly shy away from a conflict like this. In that moment, it seemed to embody the essence of a coward, cowering behind the Shadow Lord and his soldiers. Suho, with a smirk, responded that targeting his parents breaches the rules, and it was clear the creature lacked the courage to confront him directly, even with such provocations. Reflecting on their earlier exchange, Suho turned to Beru and inquired why, if his seal was flawed, he had not yet regained the power to ascend the tower. Beru explained that his abilities were sealed during his childhood, and although he has now regained the skills of the shadows, he would only be a true rival to his enemies if he possessed those powers. However, this environment is neither a dream or reality. It serves as a trial to determine his capacity to manage such powers. Regardless of the outcome, his physical strength was always meant to fade. Ultimately, this experience within the tower holds significance, as it is more than just a game. Suho distinctly remembered the feelings he experienced while navigating the Tower of Trials, reflecting on the idea that possessing something similar to an iron glove would have been beneficial. He recalled Beru's statement that shadow soldiers are fundamentally immortal with the presence of magic. They can regenerate indefinitely. Considering this perspective, it became evident that Beru also has the ability to transform at will, which opens up new possibilities for strategic planning. As the final preparations began, Suho set out to dominate the creature by summoning his shadow dogs. However, the relentless Red Hunter pressed on, taunting, asking if Suho was trying the same tactic again, warning that sending those shadow dogs was pointless. He threatened to cut down Suho in slices before the shadow soldiers could reach him. Yet, amidst this fierce exchange, an unusual phenomenon began to unfold on the battlefield. Suho started to pull shadows and turn them into a substance that covered his hands. At that moment, the red creature launched a powerful attack, resulting in a loud explosion. However, with his head down, the red creature failed to notice that his strike had been completely blocked. When he finally looked down, he saw Suho stopping his attack and heard him say, "Steel Fang Lycan lives up." The notification system indicated that he had successfully acquired the Iron Glove transformation form, which led Suho to quickly understand that this ability would enable him to confront the creature with ease. As the combat commenced, the atmosphere within the dungeon shifted dramatically. Beru, observing from a distance, was surprised and witnessed Suho wielding the weapons of the shadow soldiers, demonstrating a level of proficiency that surpassed that of the Shadow Lord, who was in a state of mastery and could manipulate shadows effortlessly. It is similar to an ant larva. The recent revelation of shadow power was remarkable, particularly in how the next level of this ability was uncovered, a stage previously unknown to him. The martial arts mastery demonstrated by Suho was truly impressive. Suho showcased a ruler's power that he had mastered by his own, without guidance or any prior knowledge. Most notably, the application of shadow power by Suho was extraordinary. Beru recognized that Suho had fully mastered his abilities. At that moment when Suho aimed the red creature forcefully against the nearest wall, resulting in a massive explosion. However, this was insufficient, as the red creature immediately jumped over from his position, emitting loud screams. The situation escalated when the weapon that Suho had begun to elevate shot directly toward the red creature. Beru quickly noticed that his young lord Suho had significantly increased in strength, leading him to conclude that Suho was indeed a true prodigy. After Suho successfully vanquished the red creature, he expressed his initial belief that his red name would ensure his invincibility, yet he acknowledged the conclusion of the battle. Beru promptly affirmed his unwavering confidence in Sung Suho's victory, raising his hand in acknowledgement. Reflecting on the encounter, Sung Suho recognized that he had adapted to a new fighting technique and chose to examine his rewards. The notification system promptly displayed the information to them, inquiring whether he wished to receive a quest reward. Sung Suho quickly affirmed his willingness to accept it. Subsequently, the system presented the quest rewards, with the first being the Storm/Rune Stone and the second being the skill he had mastered, Storm/. At that moment, Sung Suho was enveloped in a brilliant blue glow. Recognizing that this skill was the most sought-after reward, he instinctively understood how to wield it and chose to experiment with it while he had the opportunity to practice. His focus shifted to the weapon resting at his feet. The voice continued to assert to the red creature that this was merely an expression of insatiable human greed. When Sung Suho lifted his sword, it threatened to consume him entirely. The moment Suho raised the sword, the notification system indicated that he had obtained a new item, the Fang of Rakan. Sung Suho quickly recognized that this sword was significantly superior to the goblin sword he had acquired during his initial dungeon training. However, the voice that came out from the sword remained conspired by the existence of an individual who had inherited the Fang Monarch yet remained free from its influence. Once all preparations were complete, Suho began to train with his new weapon, skillfully striking in various directions and shattering the surrounding rocks. He initiated the use of his Storm Strike ability, aware that the significant mana expenditure from each strike could pose an issue. Nevertheless, he appreciated the impact, as Sung Suho had informed Beru that the response to shadow extraction varied greatly, with the strength of shadows being 1,000 times more potent rather than merely tens of thousands. Upon completing his final sword swing, he observed that his companion was regaining consciousness and approaching him. He inquired about his well-being, but his companion was unable to grasp the situation, fully opening his eyes. He noticed the red hunter lying beside him. Sung Suho mentioned that he could not summarize everything in just a few words and suggested they discuss it outside shortly. Meanwhile, all the hunters and workers began to exit the portal while seated on a bench. Sung Suho's comrade questioned him about his next steps, to which he responded that he intended to investigate whether any survivors remained in the dungeon. Upon entering the dungeon, Sung Suho's comrade was puzzled by the apparent awakening of his summoning skill in such a trivial circumstance. He struggled to comprehend how Sung Suho had gained such strength, though at that moment it seemed irrelevant. Observing the survivors as they contacted their loved ones to assure them of their safety, he noted that most were bewildered by the events that had transpired within the dungeon. The individual seated on the bench recognized that the crucial point was that all these individuals owed their lives to Sung Suho. In the dungeon, Sung Suho commenced the destruction of the iron demonic dogs. After eliminating several, he informed Beru of the numerous wolf monsters still present. Beru responded that defeating them would contribute to their experience, emphasizing the importance of not overlooking any. As Suho pondered the significant decrease in his sword's attack power, a voice from within the sword suggested that this decline was likely due to its assistance to the descendant of the Shadow Monarch. Beru commenced his explanation to the voice within the sword, asserting that demonstrating power over those who are weaker is a sign of weakness. The voice countered by noting that he had witnessed hunters pursuing prey inferior to themselves, yet Beru maintained that the young monarch had won over him despite his superior strength. Sung Suho turned to observe the peculiar scene, now confronted with a conversing insect and a sentient sword. He remained unable to acclimate to the situation. Shortly thereafter, he arrived at the location from which the sword had been drawn. Upon inspection, he discovered that all the hunters present had been destroyed. Unexpectedly, the sword began to communicate, warning that anyone who entered would face destruction. Its purpose was to safeguard the Fang Monarch's sanctuary. Nevertheless, Sung Suho grasped the sword firmly and, with all his strength, thrust it back into the very spot from which it had been removed. As he turned, he observed the ruined hunter, but the notification system promptly indicated the presence of a target for shadow extraction and inquired if he wished to proceed. Sung Suho quickly inquired about the possibility of using shadow release on humans, to which Beru responded that any creature could become a shadow soldier if the body was sufficiently destroyed. Without hesitation, Sung Suho lifted the injured hunters and began transporting them toward the dungeon's exit. Beru was puzzled, questioning whether Suho intended to utilize the shadow. When Suho turned to him, he remarked that compelling someone to fight after death resembled a form of punishment. Beru was taken aback by this statement, as he had never envisioned that the young monarch would refrain from dominating the fallen. At that moment, Sung Suho inquired of Beru whether it was indeed true that this place was the monarch's sanctuary. Beru confirmed the truth of the statement. Sung Suho elaborated that his father and the monarch he had defeated were somehow connected to the Itarim. Beru clarified that the Itarim are the non-Nash adversaries of his monarch, who is a former enemy. There are 9 monarchs in total, including their monarch, his father, Sung Jinwoo. The monarch of the dead, who is also the lord of the shadows, serves as the protector of the planet and has saved it on multiple occasions. Additionally, there is the king of beasts, the Fang monarch, who possesses strength comparable to that of the other monarchs. Following this, the ruler of insects, known as the plague monarch, emerges. King Yan reigns as the lord of strength, while the king of demons holds the title of the lord of flame. Additionally, the king of giants is recognized as the lord of primordial. The king of snowmen, referred to as the lord of frost, is also included. The king of demonic specters is identified as the lord of transfiguration, and lastly, the king of dragons is known as the lord of destruction. All 9 kings possess incomprehensible power, yet 8 of them perished in their attempts to assault the earth. Indeed, the Shadow Lord serves as his master, the very being responsible for the downfall of the Fang Lord. At this moment, the sword began to articulate its thoughts. Had the sword's power been sufficient, it would have split through the Shadow Lord. Blood from the Shadow Lord fell, destined to be consumed by the wolves. Sung Suho responded, clarifying that his reluctance was not due to a lack of understanding of the desires expressed, but rather because his father had vanquished the other kings solely to safeguard the land. His intent was to defend this territory from invaders, regardless of their allegiance, as all parties strive to protect what they hold dear. His primary concern lies in the desire to confront him due to a blood bond, questioning the logic of entering hate towards a father who failed to vanquish a Fang Lord, especially when his mission is to safeguard this location. He desires to reunite with his parents, whom he cannot reach because of the invaders, and is prepared to utilize any means necessary to achieve his objective. As the Itarim commence their invasion, the safety of this place will also be compromised. By assisting him, he would simultaneously ensure the protection of this area. The voice residing within the sword struggled to comprehend whether he was genuinely suggesting an alliance with the blood while gripping the sword's hilt. Sung Suho resolved to ensure that this sword would be a means of safeguarding both this location and the entire planet. At that moment, the Shadow and Fangs would unite on the same battlefield. Shortly thereafter, reporters seated in the cafe with Sung Suho's friend began inquiring about the previous day's events in the dungeon, eager for any details he could provide. Identifying himself as Da Jun, the survivor of the incident, he lifted his coffee cup and stated that he would share all the information he had. He sought to generate publicity for the case and enhance the reputation of Sung Suho, who holds an E rank. This presented a significant opportunity for Sung Suho to demonstrate his capabilities. Shortly thereafter, a headline emerged regarding an incident in which an E-rank hunter heroically rescued fellow hunters from a dungeon. The article detailed the courageous actions of the hunter, who bravely confronted a monster to protect others, along with interviews from several survivors he had saved. Meanwhile, the guy at the table began to distract and scratch his pen behind the ears, as it was now time to select a few members from another guild's management department. A member of the team expressed dissatisfaction regarding the information gathering unit's need for additional personnel, indicating a requirement to recruit more rank E hunters. The individual at the main desk, who held the position of second in command, requested that one candidate be sent to him. Meanwhile, the person at the computer discovered a rank E hunter who had previously battled monsters in the dungeon, successfully evacuated a group of miners, and rescued an injured hunter. The revelation of his rank E status surprised the observers, but the second-in-command remarked that it would be acceptable to recruit him for a prominent guild like theirs, suggesting they could manage any resulting scandal. The individual then attempted to reach out to the rank E hunter named Sung Suho. The scene opens with the leader of the Black Tortoise Guild inquiring whether hunter Sung Suho had responded to their letter, noting that the newcomer had successfully received an invitation from their guild and should be pleased. However, the member he questioned turned to inform him that Sung Suho had rejected the offer. This revelation incited anger in the leader, who struggled to comprehend the reasoning behind such a decision, especially considering that Suho was merely a rank E and was refusing an opportunity from a prestigious guild. The leader found it difficult to grasp the rationale behind the rejection. The other individual responded that hunter Suho was not interested in joining any guilds, which angered the leader. He was perplexed by the idea that this person believed he was an S-ranked hunter. The other individual remarked that this was not the conclusion, as they were confident that Suho would eventually reach out to them, recognizing the challenges faced by a hunter without a guild. Meanwhile, in his apartment, he began reviewing the notifications on his phone and realized that since his visit to the dungeon, he had received an abundance of guild invitations. Many individuals are eager to recruit him specifically, yet most seek to employ him merely as a porter or gatherer. He found it perplexing that so many were interested, as he believed it would hinder his progress and hinder his advancement within the system, making it unwise to align with them at this time. He was indifferent to the guild's intentions or their recruitment preferences, as he had more pressing matters to attend to. Turning to his sword, he initiated a conversation with Fang Rakan, revisiting their earlier discussion in the dungeon about the potential synergy between the powers of Shadow and Fang. Fang Rakan found it perplexing that he could speak such absurdity with composure. Shadows could serve as combines rather than enemy, but only if he was taken to the Fang Lord's other sacred site. At that moment, Suho inquired if he knew the way to that location, to which Fang Rakan responded that he was aware of all the Fang Lord's holy lands. Irrespective of their distances, however, he sensed that the gateway to that place had likely vanished. It is highly probable that what is referred to as a dungeon breakthrough has occurred. Suho quickly understood that this sacred location was likely an open dungeon inhabited by terrifying and formidable monsters. When a breach occurs at the Forsaken Gate, these creatures seize control of the area, transforming it into a desolate wasteland. At that moment, Suho, with his phone in hand, sent a message to his uncle, informing him that he would be unavailable for some time and reassuring him not to worry, even if communication was lost. At this moment, he recognized the necessity to relocate in order to enhance his influence and elevate his status swiftly. Shortly thereafter, Suho inquired with Beru about their arrival at the designated location, to which Beru confirmed their arrival. However, upon reaching the parking area, they discovered that entry was prohibited, indicating a troubling situation. The guild held ownership of the area, prompting Suho to quickly understand that access was restricted, and that the Hyena Guild, composed of former gangsters, made fear among its members. Beru expressed that the young lord should disregard the opinions of these inferior beings and elevate his status, while Fang Rakan engaged in a dispute with Beru. Suho, feeling frustrated, inquired about their actions, indicating his readiness to intervene and demonstrate his power. He began to dismantle the cameras using his abilities. When Beru questioned him about the guild, Suho confidently stated that he had his own means of escape. Upon shattering the final camera, it disintegrated into tiny fragments. Suho concluded that destroying the cameras would eliminate any evidence. Beru remarked that Suho's tactics were reminiscent of the overlords. Once inside, Suho was puzzled by the presence of a blue mist in the open dungeons. Beru clarified that this mist was mana from outer space, which accumulates at the dimensional walls, creating a rift between worlds. Thus, the fog from the Holy Land had stabbed through the dimension and reached Earth. Beings from another realm are attempting to breach the dimension to position their forces here. The amount of mana a creature possesses significantly influences its experience while traveling the dimension. Suho understood that the most powerful entities had not yet arrived. He needed to expedite his level advancement before other hunters appeared. At that moment, he lifted his gaze and spotted enormous monsters among the trees, one being a daggerclaw Vriga and the other a black shadow Rajan. Fang Rakan promptly began to convey to Suho that it was his moment to demonstrate his strength. Suho responded by indicating that while he could depend on Fang, he would not utilize him as his primary weapon, which left Fang feeling confused. After considerable reflection, Suho resolved to engage in combat according to his own style. He intended to rely on hand-to-hand techniques, similar to those practiced in the tutorial, as his foundation. For mid-range encounters, he planned to leverage the ruler's strength as a means of maintaining unpredictability, while also employing various weapons through extraction. Suho intended to acquire additional equipment to enhance his skills and attributes, progressing independently. Beru was extremely excited by the information relayed by his young overlord. Fang Rakan also recognized the strength derived from the Shadow Lord's bloodline. The longer the conflict continued, and the more he vanquished, the more powerful he became through the demons and monsters he defeated. At this moment, Suho concluded that his intelligence scores had significantly increased. He had the ability to summon 5 shadows. However, Beru remarked that this was insignificant in comparison to a powerful lord capable of summoning thousands. This angered Song Suho, who commanded Beru to be silent. As they ventured deeper into the forest, Song Suho realized they had arrived at the location Fang Rakan had mentioned. Fang Rakan then indicated that a gate to the Holy Lands was supposed to be there, yet they were confronted with an unusual warehouse instead. Song Suho observed that, despite the late hour, there were still individuals present, prompting him to question whether there was a specific reason for their prolonged stay, considering that hunting monsters was typically more effective during daylight. At that moment, a vehicle arrived, and the occupants began to unload individuals who were bound by their arms and legs. Song Suho quickly recognized that he was witnessing a kidnapping unfolding before him, a point told by Beru, who remarked that the scene was precisely as it appeared. Beru began to inform the young lord that their presence was unauthorized, cautioning him against interference should he become aware of their illegal entry. He noted that if the lord had indeed interrupted upon their territory, his hunters would have just cause to retaliate. However, as soon as Beru concluded his statement and turned around, he discovered that Song Suho had gone somewhere, leaving him puzzled about his location and intentions. Song Suho, raised by a father who was a police officer specializing in violent crimes and a legendary firefighter grandfather, developed a strong sense of justice. In that moment, he felt compelled to take action rather than remain passive. He surged forward at full speed, targeting the nearest hunter, driven by his instinct to act decisively in the name of justice, often prioritizing action over contemplation. Concurrently, Song Suho exerted all his strength and struck the individual with his shoe. The onlooking shadows were completely surprised by the spectacle they had just witnessed. The other hunters, observing their ally being kicked in the head, were equally taken aback. Following the kick, the man's face was forcefully driven into the ground, leaving the observers with only a fleeting silhouette of Song Suho, whose identity remained unclear to them, though he was fully aware of the unfolding events. At that moment, Suho became aware that his instincts had taken over, acting more swiftly than his thoughts. He recognized that he had entered without permission into another guild's domain and was uncertain about his next steps as he donned his shadow mask. Turning to confront the situation, he inquired whether they were truly abducting individuals and questioned the actions of the Hyena Guild. In response, the other hunters challenged him, questioning his presence in their territory and his aggressive approach. "Hunter, it appears you have arrived with the intent to confront us." Concurrently, the other hunters began employing their magical abilities and upgraded gear to engage Song Suho. One of the hunters launched an assault on Suho, who adeptly evaded each strike. Suho recalled his earlier insights. The average rank of the Hyena Guild members was D. Uncertain of their true capabilities, he understood the importance of remaining vigilant despite their apparent strength. Song Suho struck one of the hunters with great force, sending him hurtling away at a high speed. The remaining hunters, witnessing the figure of their comrades soaring off, were bewildered by the sudden turn of events. Following this, Suho commenced to take down the approaching hunters one by one. Beru, observing the confrontation, was surprised to realize that those awakened individuals who had attained rank D were no longer a match for Song Suho. Currently, the notification window displayed that Song Suho was at level 16. Shortly thereafter, he resolved to restrain all the hunters to prevent their escape from the vicinity. As Beru, positioned beside him, remarked on the elegant execution of the plan, Song Suho proceeded to release the individuals who had been seized by the guild. Grateful for their rescue, they expressed their thanks and inquired if he was affiliated with the Hunter Association. Song Suho responded that they could consider him as such. He indicated that he would manage the situation locally and urged them to evacuate swiftly to safety. After the individuals entered the vehicle and departed, Song Suho found himself puzzled by the guild's motives for kidnapping individuals. At that moment, Fang Rakan began to express to Song Suho that he was experiencing a certain sensation. Song Suho inquired about the nature of his feelings, to which Fang Rakan responded that this was the reason he had requested Song Suho's presence. Upon arriving at the fence, they proceeded to enter the room, where Song Suho was taken aback by what he saw. He was astonished by the sight before him, as the room contained numerous cages. Beru remarked on the palpable yet indistinct energy present in the space. Suho then noticed a locked dog in the closest cage, struggling to comprehend the Hyena Guild's motives for such an act. Fang Rakan interjected, suggesting that the creature appeared to be a small wolf, possibly a descendant of the King of Beasts, the monarch Fang. Upon hearing this, Suho found it hard to trust his own senses. Fang Rakan continued by explaining that following his defeat in the conflict against the Shadow, Monarch Fang had commanded that the surviving descendant be concealed within the shrine and protected, as he feared that if the blood ties remained intact, another Monarch Fang would emerge. He candidly confessed that he had not anticipated discovering a Fang monarch in such an unexpected location. At that moment, Suho released the little wolf cub from its restraints and sheltered it in his arms. He had just finished hearing the tale of the Lord's desire for his clan to remain undisturbed. A faint awareness of the Fang Lord's aura lingered, and he recognized that he had expended considerable energy, risking his life if the situation continued. Fang Rakan expressed concern about this. Beru inquired about the young lord's next steps. After a moment of contemplation, Suho acknowledged that he initially believed only a few remained, but now realized there was one more adversary he needed to eliminate, fueling his anger. As he turned his head, he encountered a demonic creature that informed Suho that placing trust in others was useless. The creature, identifying itself as Braki, claimed to have survived. Suho promptly inquired if they were acquainted. Fang Rakan responded affirmatively, recognizing him as the hunter of the descendant he had mentioned. Braki then remarked to Fang Rakan that it had been quite some time since their last meeting. Fang Rakan quickly noted that he had not forgotten his duty to guard the descendant and questioned what Braki had been doing all this time. While the young wolf cub was restrained, Fang Rakan inquired of Suho, who was cradling the cub. Unbeknownst to him, Braki approached with remarkable speed, demanding to know how he dared to handle his possession. Braki then delivered a powerful strike with his tail, sending Suho lying down to the side. Beru, witnessing the incident, shouted to check on his young lord's well-being. The force of the blow was so intense that Suho broke through a wall and collided with nearby containers in the street. Beru quickly rushed to his side, concerned, and asked if he was all right, to which Suho responded that it was the most painful hit he had experienced in some time. Beru observed and exclaimed that the young lord was currently bleeding from his head, to which Suho responded, urging Beru not to shout as the loud noises were causing the young lord's head to pulse. In response to this, Beru mentioned that upon his arrival, he sensed a surviving energy that he identified as Itarim. He recognized Itarim's energy to emerge from the young lord. Fang Rakan began to pay attention to Beru, who then turned to Braki, inquiring if he was aware of what had transpired with the overlord's descendant. Beru then interrupted his narrative to clarify that he understood how the young lord had lost his sanctuary and how he had managed to retain such a formidable level of strength. Natural selection posits that only the fittest endure, while the survival of the less capable depends on the urge of the powerful. In this natural order, the weak often serve as sustenance for the strong. A creature remarked that despite his frailty, this individual is a descendant of the Fang Lord, making him an exceptional source of nourishment. Consequently, various creatures are inclined to consume him. Currently, Fang Rakan noted that he sometimes absorbs the energy of the Lord's descendant from this young wolf cub. Braki declared his intention to eliminate Fang Rakan once his current task was complete. At that moment, Suho raised his hand, asserting that his death was evidence of weakness. However, Braki interpreted, asserting that his physique was suited for the strong. He further proclaimed his ambition to become the next Fang Lord, claiming he would be worthy of the title. In response, Suho launched an attack on Braki with his sword, channeling his strength into the strike. Seizing the opportunity, Beru swiftly picked up the small wolf cub and moved it away from the battlefield, while the sword returned to Suho's grasp. Once he confirmed the cub's safety, Suho turned his attention to Fang Rakan, believing that Fang was upset with him, though he accepted the situation. However, he also had unresolved matters with Fang, as they were on the brink of their first fight. At that moment, Suho discovered a lead regarding his father, and simultaneously, the notification system alerted him to a new quest, an urgent hyena hunt named Braki, which he needed to complete to ensure safety. Next, the scene starts with Suho's realization. Suho came to the realization of the guild's namesake when he observed the monster's method of forming a guild through the kidnapping of the individuals and linking it to a Itarim. The other hunters affiliated with Suho began to shout at Braki, demanding their release, asserting that he was a formidable opponent and offering their assistance in the battle if he freed them. Concurrently, Suho declared that he would not permit such an outcome. At that moment, Braki launched an assault on his guild's subordinates and eliminated them effortlessly with a single strike. He then proclaimed that anyone who believed he required assistance to confront this adversary had lost sight of their position. One becomes prey the instant they forget their role. Witnessing the destruction of his comrade, Suho was filled with intense rage and swiftly advanced toward the monster. The moment Suho released his first strike, his enemy easily countered it by blocking the blow with precision. Suho, filled with doubt and questioned whether he had truly taken lives only for the playing. Braki, with a chilling calmness, asserted that the powerful hold dominion over the fates of the weak. Braki suggests Suho that the strong need no justification for their whims. With a swift motion, Braki hit back with another punch, but Suho escaped it by leaping into the air. As he soared down towards Braki, he summoned a newly acquired technique skill, Storm Slash. Yet the force behind his strikes fell short. Braki, unimpressed, taunted him, wondering if this was truly the extent of his abilities. Braki kept saying that Suho had tarnished the reputation of the Fang Monarch's owner. Out of nowhere, a sudden sword was launched towards the monster, which was bewildered by the source of this concealed assault. Suho positioned before the creature Braki and tried to manipulate the sword with a wave of his hand, declaring that this was not the conclusion. Fang Rakan then inquired of Braki about the sudden change in his demeanor and reminded him that he had once pledged loyalty and respect to Lord Rakan, and it left Fang Rakan confused by this transformation. Braki expressed his doubts regarding the necessity of honoring Rakan, as he held no genuine respect for him and was merely terrified by his authority. Determined to escape his own trivial existence, he resolved to take matters into his own hands at the first opportunity. With a forceful strike, he punched Suho, declaring that he could not afford to concern himself with others at that moment. The impact of the blow left Suho overwhelmed by pain, as if every bone in his body had shattered. As Suho sang, a long memory flickered to life, one that had slipped through the cracks of time, lighting the thoughts of his father, who might be locked in a wild battle at that very moment. This realization surged through him, fueling an incredible strength that coursed within, a reminder that surrender was not an option. With determination burning in his heart, he concentrated all his energy into a single, powerful punch, employing the shadow technique to envelop his fists in protective armor, ready to unleash his full might against any challenge that lay ahead. Fueled by a wild determination, he landed a blow on his adversary, refusing to be bested by what he deemed a pitiful creature at that moment. Beru, observing the clash, marveled at the remarkable skill of his young lord, who displayed such strength at an age. Meanwhile, Fang Rakan, lying down on the ground, couldn't shake the memory of the formidable power that the broken sword once wielded, now seemingly destined for ruin. The fate of his lineage and the future of the Fang clan rested solely on the shoulders of Suho, who remained resolute, eager to continue the fight, biding his time for the next confrontation. At that moment, the young wolf cub began to stand despite the considerable difficulty it faced. Fang Rakan observed this and recognized that the cub, a descendant of Rakan, was persevering through its pain. He perceived that Suho's fighting spirit was motivating the little wolf cub. Fang Rakan realized that his only option was to assist by transferring his remaining strength to the descendant. Meanwhile, Suho continued to battle, even though his adversary was exceptionally powerful. Suho restrained himself from delivering any strikes. After being cast aside, he gradually lifted his head to observe the approaching monster. As he raised his gaze, a notification appeared indicating that he had only 21 HP remaining. The monster drew nearer, exuding a threatening aura, and remarked that for a mere worm, he possessed admirable tolerance. In that critical moment, the creature turned to unleash its disastrous strike on Suho, but out of nowhere, the wolf cub, now strengthened, lunged at the monster's paw and frustrating its deadly intent. Suho was bewildered, unable to hold the sudden turn of events or the origin of the wolf cub's unexpected bravery. As the cub completed its daring assault, it positioned itself protectively in front of the young Shadow Lord, ready to defend him. Meanwhile, a notification flashed revealing that the Fang descendant was acknowledging the player's unbeatable spirit and proposed an alliance. Suho was left in confusion, wondering whether this courageous wolf cub was indeed the same one he had encountered before. Suho recognizes the necessity of accepting him as an ally. The monster began to inquire about its lineage, revealing that it had absorbed the magical energy of Fang Rakan. This revelation led Suho to understand that the wolf cub had also harnessed the power of the sword. It became clear that Fang Rakan had made a selfless sacrifice to protect his heir. From the outset, Suho had aimed to collaborate with Fang Rakan. After reviewing the system notification, he concluded that there was no justification for refusal and chose to accept the invitation. With the Fang Rakan descendant as an ally, a new window appeared in the notification system, indicating that data synchronization was in progress. Suho felt an unusual sensation in his mind. As the memories began to flood in his mind, revealing about his opponent Brocky in a cave with a small wolf cub, and they are discussing their close confrontation with the monarch. In this harsh world, where only the strongest survive, his opponent Brocky reflected on the inevitable losses they would face, yet highlights that such challenges would ultimately lead to greater strength for the future of the Fangs. As he gently stroked the wolf cub's head, the tranquility was shattered by the sudden arrival of strange creatures, causing the wolf cub to tremble in fear. In a moment of confrontation, the creatures questioned why they should eliminate the wolf cub, with one acknowledging its potential value and unique qualities while reaching out to touch it. The entity awarded a portion of its power upon him, declaring that he was its chosen one. Hyena Brocky was now tasked with capturing living individuals and delivering them to these beings. The entity creature further explained that this power would assist him in eliminating unnecessary troubles, though its effectiveness would depend on his choices, which might conflict with his true desires. In that moment, Suho began to grasp that these were the memories of a Fang descendant, the very beings who had implanted thoughts in Brocky's mind. They were the architects behind the connection to Itarim. The Fang descendant did not seek revenge against Brocky, rather, they aimed to stop him, which only fueled Brocky's anger. If their scheme was to be prevented, then defeating Brocky right after was imperative. In that very instant, Suho came to the stark realization that he lacked the power necessary to overcome his adversary. Just then, the notification system showed in, revealing the activation of a new quest that involved a companion. This quest, titled Monarch's Descendants, tasked him with locating the heirs of the monarch and forging alliances with them. The progress bar indicated that he had only completed 1 out of 8 steps. However, being near Fang's descendants triggered a unique bonding skill, hinting at the potential for deeper connections ahead. At that moment, the vast blue aura began to radiate intensely, and Suho sensed that a significant event was unfolding. Beru observed that the young lord was experiencing a transformation distinct from that of the lord. Brocky, witnessing this, was puzzled by the situation. He pushed himself towards Suho at full speed, intent on halting the unfolding events immediately. With a powerful swing, he struck with all his might, triggering a collapse of everything in the surrounding area. The notification system indicated to Suho that a skill was being developed as a result of his connection with the Fang descendant. At that moment, he had merged his strength with that of the Fang. This bonding skill, classified as a level 1 beast transformation, required 1 mana per second to maintain. The essence of the Fang descendant infused into his body, enhancing his physical capabilities and honing his beast-like senses. Suho was uncertain whether he had successfully absorbed the descendant this time. Suho's body felt both weightless and immensely powerful, with his senses heightened to an extraordinary degree, rendering everything around him strange and bewildering. This newfound flexibility allowed him to avoid threats effectively, and after successfully dodging all assaults, he delivered a powerful kick to Brocky. Brocky was confused by the source of this strength and the fact that he was currently at a disadvantage. Upon closer inspection, he realized that this was the same boy he had battled just moments earlier. He could not accept defeat against someone at this moment, especially after the considerable effort he had invested in acquiring his own power. Beru, observing the conflict, and Beru noted a significant increase in the magical energy of his young lord. Brocky exclaimed his confusion regarding the trick being employed, and Brocky was asserting that he would not be defeated by a human. He believed that strength was the defining factor between species and felt that he should hold himself accountable for being an inferior creature known as a human. Meanwhile, Suho commenced by utilizing a technique skill, focusing on mastering hand-to-hand combat skills. Beru, standing close by, felt a surge of anger as Braki dared to discuss the shading between species in front of a young lord, for there was no rank higher than a Shadow Lord, making Braki's words completely misguided and risky. Just then, Braki, caught off guard, struggled to comprehend whether the boy truly held the title of Shadow Lord. In that instant, Suho sprang into action, executing a flawless punch that sent his adversary crashing to the ground. As the dust settled, the wolf cub's power detached from Suho, instinctively moving towards the fallen Braki, who lay defeated on the earth. Braki grasps to life, his sole focus on the relentless pursuit of strength. Nothing else mattered to him. The desire to grow stronger consumed his every thought. Then, through a lot of his struggles, he caught sight of his master, Rakan, emerging in the distance. A wave of self-reproach washed over him for failing to protect his mentor. In a moment, the wolf cub screamed loudly, and suddenly, a notification flashed before him, declaring that Hyena Braki had been defeated, while simultaneously announcing that Suho had leveled up.